can still picture that day like it happened yesterday. It was fall of 1999, Pokémon Gold and Silver had finally arrived in the United States, and sitting there in my hands was something that immediately became one of my favorite possessions as a kid. A translucent atomic purple Game Boy Color with a brand new copy of Pokémon Gold version. Looking back, I didn't know which one excited me more. Part of me couldn't wait to discover an entirely new Pokémon adventure after spending countless hours in Kanto, while the other half couldn't stop staring at the handheld itself. Every time I turned it over, I could see the circuit board, the battery compartment, the tiny screws holding everything together, and somehow that made it feel even more magical. Most kids probably saw a purple Game Boy. I saw a little window into the machine that was about to transport me somewhere completely different. That combination burned into my memory. Riding in the car that night with passing streetlights acting as my backlight, sneaking in a few extra minutes before bed, carrying it everywhere in my backpack because you never knew when you'd have 10 spare minutes to catch another Pokemon. Whenever I think about Pokemon Gold, I picture that translucent purple shell wrapped around it. The game and the hardware became one memory. Years later, I realized that wasn't an accident. The late 90s were a fascinating time for consumer electronics because companies suddenly stopped pretending technology had to hide behind boring gray plastic. Transparent telephones, colorful iMacs, translucent CD players, radios, and handheld electronics started appearing everywhere. Designers realized people enjoyed seeing the inside of the technology they used every day. Instead of making electronics feel mysterious by hiding everything, they made them exciting by revealing just enough. Nintendo embraced that philosophy better than almost anyone. The Game Boy had already become one of the most recognizable pieces of hardware in gaming history, yet Nintendo kept reinventing it through color. Bright reds, yellows, greens, and eventually translucent editions gave every handheld its own personality. Then the Game Boy Color arrived, and Atomic Purple quickly became the version that defined the entire system for so many players. There's something wonderfully ironic about calling it transparent purple, because it somehow managed to be loud and subtle at exactly the same time. It stood out from across the room, yet the closer you looked, the more details revealed themselves. For me, that shell made Pokemon Gold feel like an even bigger leap forward than it already was. Everything about Gold and Silver felt enormous compared to the original games. Suddenly there was a real-time clock changing the world around you. Pokemon appeared during different times of the day, breeding introduced entirely new strategies. The soundtrack somehow sounded richer, Johto felt larger, and reaching Kanto after finishing the Elite Four still ranks among the greatest surprises Nintendo has ever pulled off. Watching all of that unfold through a translucent Game Boy Color somehow made the experience feel even more futuristic. Maybe that sounds ridiculous, but when you're a kid, hardware becomes part of the adventure. I wasn't separating the console from the game. Every button press happened through a controller I could partially see inside of. Every battery change reminded me that this tiny machine somehow held an entire world. Even loading a fresh pair of AA batteries felt like fueling up before another expedition across Johto. That idea spread far beyond handhelds. Around the same time, translucent gaming hardware exploded everywhere. Nintendo's Atomic Purple Nintendo 64 controller became one of the most recognizable controllers ever made. Soon there were Funtastic controllers in Ice Blue, Jungle Green, Grape Purple, Smoke Black, Fire Orange, and Watermelon Red. Suddenly, consoles weren't just pieces of electronics sitting under the television. They reflected your personality before you even turned them on. Walking into Toys R Us or KB Toys back then almost felt dangerous for a kid with an imagination. Every shelf had another variation you didn't know existed. Maybe it was a different Game Boy Color, maybe it was a limited edition controller, maybe Japan had another version you only saw in magazines. Half of the fun came from wondering what else was out there. Other companies eventually joined in as well. Sony introduced transparent accessories that gave the original PlayStation and PlayStation 2 a little extra personality without abandoning their more mature aesthetic. Microsoft followed with the Crystal Xbox, proving even one of the largest consoles ever built could somehow look lighter when you could see inside of it. The idea wasn't tied to one company anymore. It had become part of gaming culture itself. Then the industry gradually moved away from it. During the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 generation, everything became glossy, black, piano finishes, brushed metal, and sleek minimalism. Consoles started resembling expensive home theater equipment instead of colorful toys. From a design standpoint, it made perfect sense. Gaming had become mainstream, and manufacturers wanted hardware that blended into living rooms rather than demanding attention. Even so, I always missed a little bit of that personality. Opaque plastic hides the engineering. Translucent plastic celebrates it. Seeing ribbon cables, battery contacts, and tiny circuit boards never made these machines feel less magical to me. Somehow it had the opposite effect. Looking inside only made me appreciate how incredible they were. That's probably why transparent hardware keeps coming back. Modern handhelds from companies making retro-inspired systems frequently offer translucent shells because people still respond to them. Controller manufacturers continue releasing crystal clear editions. Modding communities replace ordinary shells with transparent purple, smoke black, emerald green, or glacier blue because those colors immediately reconnect us with a very specific feeling. It isn't only nostalgia. There's something timeless about a design that invites curiosity. It encourages you to pick the controller up, rotate it in the light, and admire all the little details someone normally expects you to ignore. Few materials make technology feel more approachable than transparent plastic. Whenever I see a translucent controller today, my mind doesn't jump to a product announcement or a collector's price. It goes right to being a kid in 1999, holding that atomic purple Game Boy Color with Pokémon Gold for the very first time, completely convinced I was holding the coolest thing anyone had ever invented. Maybe every generation has its version of that feeling, but I'm grateful mine happened to come wrapped in a little purple shell that let me peek behind the curtain. I'd love to hear what your first translucent console or accessory was, or whether you're still hoping to track one down for your collection. There's a good chance we all remember the games we played, but I have a feeling many of us remember the hardware we held just as vividly. Alright, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.